Our story begins in a certain mansion deep within the mountains. Inside the mansion is a small crowd of people gathered around the center, as an elder announces the news that Prince Yi Xian, the third-generation prince of the Yi family, is now dethroned to his position and that Yi Lang is now the new prince. The reason for his dethronement is due to his lack of talent and merit. The crowd of people celebrates the news. Yet, among the crowds, a shout of dissatisfaction was heard. This person is the sister of the dethroned prince. She questions why his brother is being dethroned when he fought for their family's mining rights in Nanshan. She confronts the elder for making some baseless excuse to remove his brother from his position. The words of the girl are met with negative responses from the crowd. She argues that his brother risked his life for the family, so it is not fair for him to be treated like this. One of the men slaps the girl in the face and Yi Lang calls her out for disrespecting the elder in public, threatening her to be imprisoned for 30 years as a punishment. He orders his man to punish the girl for disturbing the ancestral hall, and the man drags the girl using her hair. Suddenly, a threatening shout was heard at the entrance of the gate. And from there, Yi Xian punches the guy who was dragging his sister. Yi Xian places his feet on the head of the already unconscious man, but Yi Lang confronts him for hurting his man. Yi Xian replies by squashing the head of the unconscious man, threatening everyone that no matter who it is, if they hurt his sister, they'll eventually be sent to hell in no time. With a concerned look, Yi Lang questions the situation on why Yi Xian is here when he already sent someone to kill him. The old man is angered by Yi Xian's action and prepares for an attack. Both blows collide as we see Yi Xian being pushed back a little. In the scene of the battle, the crowd is surprised that the difference in power between the combatant is very small despite the huge gap in their cultivation level. The old man is also surprised by Yi Xian's power, recognizing his strength. Yi Xian questions the elder for his decision of dethroning him. The elder reveals that Yi Lang is a newly awakened chosen one and that he is the rightful heir of the family. Yi Xian is taken aback by the elder's revelation. The chosen ones are those favored by heaven and earth, and there are only less than 10 of them in the entire Jiang kingdom. Yi Xian challenges Yi Lang, stating that since Yi Lang is the new prince, he will be unable to refuse the challenge. Yi Lang accepts the challenge, but he wants them to fight in the life or death arena. Yi Lang questions Yi Xian if he still dares. With a smile, Yi Xian agrees with confidence. Yi Lang notices it and questions if Yi Xian is not afraid of death or just confident in killing him. Yi Lang announces that the fight will be held in 1 month and everyone will be watching it. Yi Xian agrees and leaves the scene while carrying his weakened sister. The elder questions Yi Lang if he is confident in defeating Yi Xian. He replies that after 1 month of awakening his soul, no one will be his match in Qingcheng. Moments later, Yi Xian checks on his sister. She asked her brother why he accepted the life-or-death battle with Yi Lang. Yi Xian assures his sister that he will win and that they won't be able to bully her anymore. The sister blames herself for being a burden, but Yi Xian just tells her to go to sleep. After leaving his sister, Yi Xian loosens his upper garment, revealing a wound on his stomach. We are sent back to his recent memory where among the bloody corpses, we see Yi Xian asking one of the assassins about the person who sent them. The assassin laughs at Yi Xian's situation as he reveals that even if he is killed, Yi Xian will forever be a waste as his dantian is already ruined. Back in the present time, Yi Xian realizes that the assassins were probably sent by the elders. With a bloody finger, he takes out a ring from his garment while assuring his mother that he will protect his sister as well as cure her illness. The ring reacts to his blood and then suddenly, he is standing up in front of a large tower with a menacing aura around it. Yi Xian opens the door without hesitation, revealing a seated skeleton, a sword, and a bloody writing on the floor, explaining that the skeleton is the heavenly sword master and that he has been locked up for more than 1,000 years. His only hope is that the inheritor will take care of the heavenly sword sect. Yi Xian is confident that he can kill Yi Lang once he perfects the sword technique that was left behind. A female voice informs him that with his broken dantian, he won't be able to inherit the legacy. The female examines Yi Xian and realizes why the boundless tower chose him. She informs him that he has an excellent talent, but his dantian is destroyed, which means that he needs to practice in another way. The female suggested a technique that will allow him to use his sword as a substitute. He will be able to bring the world to its knees if he can develop a sword body. She asks Yi Xian if he wants to learn the technique. Yi Xian questions her reason for helping him. She reveals that it is because he is the new lord of the tower. She also needs his help to retrieve the 9 Tao principles of the tower that is scattered in the celestial sky realm. The more he retrieves, the stronger he will become. Moreover, he will be able to control the most powerful beings in the tower. If he fails to collect them all, the seal might shatter and the strongest being will be free, which might result in his death. Yi Xian realizes that his discovery of the tower is both a blessing and a curse. He inquires about the 3 swords at the top of the tower and if they can be used for practice. She reveals that those swords are too powerful, and if he is not afraid of death, then he can use them. She takes the sword of the skeleton and tells him that the sword has been trapped for many years and has lost all of its spiritual power. Despite that, it is still very dangerous to absorb it into his dantian. With Yi Xian's resolve to never gonna give you up, and to protect his sister, he agrees to absorb the sword. The female assures him that he won't die since she will protect him. Remembering his sister, he resolves to absorb it all. In the 3rd chapter, we see the 2 elders as they talk about Yi Xian's broken dantian, which was confirmed by the survivor of the Li family. The white-haired elder talks about Yi Xian's daringness to fight in a life or death with a broken dantian. He wants to take the opportunity to show off Yi Lang and harm Yi Xian's sister. In a room, we see Yi Xian as he wakes up from sleep. He realizes that he is now in the 6th grade of the Qi refinement realm. With wounds all around her, his sister calls out to him, informing him that he has been sleeping for 3 days. Agitated by her state, Yi Xian inquires about the identity of the person who harmed her. She revealed that it was the kitchen chef who also gave them rotten food. While holding her hand, they went out to avenge his sister. Later on, Yi Xian located the chef along with an elder. The chef informs Yi Xian that the elder is going to betroth his sister to his ugly ass. Yi Xian punches the bastard and cuts off his hand for hitting his sister. The elder intervenes as he prepares to punch, ordering Yi Xian to kneel. Yi Xian explodes in anger at the elder's audacity to betroth his sister to the scum. As their fists collide, the elder's sleeve gets torn, and the elder is sent flying due to the force of Yi Xian's punch. The elder is in disbelief while Yi Xian places his foot on the elder's head. As he is about to squash the elder, he is interrupted by the white-haired elder, who questions Yi Xian's loyalty to the family for daring to kill an elder. His sister panics at the sight of the elders, but Yi Xian assures her. Yi Xian answers the elder that he is feeling rebellious and questions the great elder if he also wants to fight. Yi Lang interjects by declaring that they should be the ones fighting. The great elder along with the crowd praises Yi Lang for reaching the Qi transformation realm in just a few days. Yi Lang pretends to be humbled by downplaying himself. Yi Xian walks away not wanting to waste his time with the fake scene. The great elder was about to call him back, but Yi Lang stops him. Yi Lang smiles maliciously as he lets Yi Xian enjoy his remaining time. Inside the ring, Yi Xian is being taught by his new master about a hidden golden body state between Qi transformation and Qi control realms, which most people are not aware of. She explains that in this state, he will be able to double his strength if he cultivates his physical body. He agrees to follow this method and she teaches him how to cultivate his physical body. Moments later, a huge beam of light that reaches the sky is seen erupting from the household of the Yi family. At this moment, Yi Xian is preoccupied with his meditation. Unknown to him, his master is praising him for his talent, which is comparable to that of a monster. The master also mentions that the golden body is something that can lead to visions of heaven and earth. Thinking that the vision was caused by Yi Lang, the members of the Yi family kneels to thank the heaven and earth. On the other hand, Yi Lang questions how the vision occurred since he already broke through an hour ago. He assures himself that it was him, knowing that in the Yi family, no one else is capable of doing that. After his meditation, Yi Xian received a huge boost in power, causing him to be overconfident. Fortunately, his master realigned his view to the right path. Yi Xian inquires his master if she has a solution to his sister's disease, and she replies that she can solve it, but it would only be possible if Yi Xian is able to bring his sister inside the ring. Yi Xian concludes that he should go immediately to the capital after dealing with Yi Lang. While having a rest, Yi Xian is informed by his sister about the celebration among the clan for Yi Lang's attainment that caused the vision of heaven and earth. Yi Xian disregards the news and assures his sister that he will win the battle regardless of the circumstances. Yi Xian invited his sister for a walk, and while walking on the street, his sister caught the attention of a woman in a familiar garment. Outside the city walls, a beautiful woman is seen riding a horse. She confirms that this is the place where a vision of heaven and earth occurred. While enjoying their time, the entrance of a person whose name is On Langshu has caught the attention of the crowd as well as his sister. On Langshu, Jianggo's first genius, and the youngest scholar in the country, was the first student to be invited by the headmaster of Kongmu Academy, as well as the first from the youngest generation of Jianggo to ever reach the celestial sky realm. Among the crowd, Yi Xian gets the attention of Langshu, who notices his hidden golden body state that can cause a vision of heaven and earth. She challenges Yi Xian, mistaking him for Yi Lang. Laner informs Langshu that she got the wrong person, but they belong to the same household, so she offers to go together. Despite that, Langshu insisted on challenging Yi Xian. He agrees on to the challenge, but she has to wait for 2 days. Langshu doesn't think that Yi Xian is qualified to make her wait. Yi Xian is not happy to hear that, so he takes a cucumber and throws it to her. She dodges it easily, but in Yi Xian's hand is a strand of her hair. Langshu is surprised that he can cut her hair just by using a cucumber and realizes that he is a swordsman. Yi Xian replies by complimenting her soft hair. Impressed by his cucumber, Langshu takes back what she said and compliments Yi Xian for being a swordsman at such a young age. Later on, they finally reach the gate of the household. Langshu is greeted by the great elder along with Yi Lang and the clan members. The siblings, on the other hand, were ordered to go away by the great elder. Yi Xian responds by asking him why he cares while throwing the cucumber at his face. Miss On questions the scenario. Yi Lang explains that Yi Xian is an arrogant and a talentless person. He comments that Yi Xian has made a mockery of himself by challenging him to a life-or-death fight. This comment has led Langshu to question his identity. The great elder reveals that he is Yi Lang, the chosen one and the person she is looking for. While waving at her, Yi Lang admires her beauty, thinking that it was not in vain for him to reincarnate. And that once she learns about the prince's cruelty, she will soon yield to him. Langshu pointed her spear at the great elder for declaring that Yi Lang is a chosen one. She insulted Yi Lang and compared his realm to that of a bubble. Yi Lang gets angered by her remarks and requests clarification regarding her intended message. She proceeds to explain that Yi Lang lacks the necessary qualifications to compete with her. Yi Lang prepares a punch while challenging her to take it if he is truly not qualified. The great elder warns him, and with a quick swing of her spear, she forms a dragon that intimidated him. Yi Lang realizes that this is a spear intent and questions how she can understand it at such a young age. She comments on Yi Lang being a coward for not daring to proceed with his attack and calls him a reincarnated trash. Langshu insults the elders while reminding Yi Xian about their meetup in 2 days. As the sibling watches her leave, the great elder concerningly asked Yi Lang if he was okay. Yi Lang tells him to get out for interrupting him during the fight. Moments later, Yi Xian asked his master about Miss On. She replies that Yi Xian and his sister are as good as her. Especially his sister. This comment excites Yi Xian and he proceeds to ask if Ling Er is better than Langshu. The master scolds him for being too close and stops him from asking any further. She instructs him to cultivate a sword technique to further increase his strength. Sword techniques are a type of martial art, and the Yi family's best martial arts are only at the human level. The master gave him a technique that is called "One Sword Determines the Life and Death," with a rank that is relative to his conviction in the way of the sword. This made Yi Xian extremely pleased, so he tried to hug his master, but his master avoided it. She encourages him to train instead of being too happy. Yi Xian agrees, and after 2 days, the stage for Yi Xian and Yi Lang is finally set at the plaza. Her sister urges her brother to check out the arena. Yi Xian realizes that the Yi family is trying to show off in order to make Yi Lang stand out. This causes Lon Air to comment on the elders for being biased. The crowd notices that the city lord, the Zhang family, as well as the Li family, are going to watch the fight. This caught Yi Xian's attention, and they decided to watch the scene. At the center of the crowd's attention are the 2 patriarchs and the lord of the city. The great elder greeted the guests and invited them to have a seat as the fight is about to begin. At this moment, Yi Lang notices that someone is staring at him. True enough, among the crowd, Yi Xian is looking at him while giving him the mosaic finger. This causes Yi Lang to be worked up, but the great elder stops him. Yi Lang agrees, knowing that the fight is about to begin. Standing at the elevated platform, the great elder introduces the fighters. The guests commented on how the Yi family is shallow-minded for suppressing a genius like Yi Xian. Not hearing what they said, the great elder announces the beginning of the fight, and that once they are inside the arena, only their skills will determine their life or death, and that no one is allowed to interfere. Inside the arena, both fighters momentarily stares at each other. Yi Lang was about to run his mouth, but Yi Xian introduces his fist to his face. This causes Yi Lang to be thrown away by the force as the crowd expresses their surprise that Yi Lang was defeated in one punch. The great elder accuses him of sneakily attacking his opponent. Yi Xian mocks the elder from below as he retorts that the match has already begun. The guest of the match also agreed with Yi Xian, stating that it was the elder who shouted that the match had already begun. This pisses off the elder as he wonders why they are helping Yi Xian. Yi Lang interrupts the scene by saying that he was careless and that he will show the difference between an ant and a genius. As he shows off his qi, the crowd realizes that Yi Lang is already in the imperial qi realm, which impresses the crowd, calling him a super genius. They determine that Yi Xian is about to lose, but his sister encourages him from the side. As Yi Lang charges at him, Yi Xian prepares his smoking fist, which he used to send Yi Lang flying away and ending the fight. All the guests exclaim their surprise as they realize that Yi Xian was hiding his true strength all along. The great elder catches the falling Yi Lang while accusing Yi Xian of cheating. He orders the servant to kill Yi Xian, but Loner denies his claim. The crowd agrees with her, stating that they should not compete if they are afraid of losing. The elder calls them a peasant and calls out for the guards, but is interrupted by the patriarch of the Yi family, informing Yi Xian that the great elder has been demoted to a regular elder. He asked Yi Xian to forget about everything since he's the prince. Yi Xian surprises the patriarch by revealing his awareness about the fact that the patriarch was the one behind everything, and now he wants to use Yi Xian to threaten the great elder to further strengthen his position. Knowing all this, Yi Xian declines the offer of being the prince of the family. The patriarch is not flattered by this, and he announces that Yi Xian has betrayed the family and that he will personally execute him. As he was declaring his goal, a thunderous spear was thrown between the two. The lord recognized the owner of the spear. Lan Shu greeted the city lord, and she proceeds to float towards her spear where Yi Xian was waiting. She informs him that the time has come for them to fight. The great elder questions Lang Shu on why he wants to fight a loser like Yi Xian, and she replies by threatening to kill the old man if she hears another word from him. Yi Xian agrees with her as he conjures a sword from his hand. The two patriarchs realize that Yi Xian is actually a swordsman as the tall patriarch laughs at the Yi family for forcing a sword cultivator genius out of their household. Next to Loner is the city lord, who talks to her and informs her that it was probably her brother who caused the vision. Among all this, The patriarch of the Yi family is scolding the great elder after knowing that Yi Xian is actually a sword cultivator. He blames the elder for ruining his family. The elder retorts that it was the patriarch who agreed to abolish Yi Xian and dethrone him from his previous position. The patriarch didn't like what he said, but the elder tries to calm the patriarch by suggesting to control Yi Xian by abducting his sister. The patriarch calls him a blind old dog as he points out that the city lord is already protecting Loner. The two start the fight by charging at each other. Their weapon collides and she follows up by using her spear intent, which causes Yi Xian to be without a weapon. She continues her attack by thrusting her spear at her opponent. Yi Xian managed to dodge the attack, and with the opportunity, he managed to hold the spear, which allowed him to pull Lan Shu to his embrace. Yi Xian apologizes as he explodes himself along with Lan Shu. The explosion caused his sister to be worried about him, but the city lord assured her. After the smoke clears out, we see Yi Xian on top of Lan Shu while holding her melon. Yi Xian realizes his mistake, so he took his hand off. Lan Shu kicks him away as she orders him to get off. Yi Xian apologizes for what happened and explains that he didn't mean to touch her. Lan Shu explains that she's not that petty and compliments him for being good at close combat, revealing that she had to use her realm advantage for the last kick that she did. The worried sister hugs him as he assures her about his well-being. Since he already left the household, Lan Shu invited him to the Kongmu Academy and notifies him that she wants to fight again in a few days. Yi Xian tells her that he is not capable of being admitted to the academy, but Lan Shu throws him a jade pendant that belongs to her lady. She tells him that the pendant will allow him to enter the academy, and Yi Xian looks at the pendant with the hope that her sister will be cured by the academy. The great elder kneels in despair as he hears the name of the academy. The patriarch orders the guard to destroy his dantian and throw him in the dungeon. Under the moon of the night, we see Yi Lang sitting in the corner as he promises his revenge on Yi Xian. Suddenly, Yi Xian apologizes as he immediately cuts off the root of the problem, leaving the corpse behind. Unknown to him, Lan Shu, along with an elder, is actually observing his deed. She asked the elder about Yi Xian, and the elder praises him for being decisive but concludes that they are worlds apart and that he is not worthy of her. Lan Shu comments that the elder is overreacting and that no one in the world is capable of taking her heart.
3 days had passed since the duel, and now a carriage emerged, drawn by an impressive steed. Driving it is Yi Xian, accompanied by his sister. Curious, Yi Ling turned to her brother and asked if they had arrived in the capital. Yi Xian replied, revealing that they still had a distance to cover but were nearing the city of Qianxian. There, they would board a cloud boat to reach the capital. Yi Xian motioned for his sister to enter the carriage, worrying about the strong wind. Suddenly beside him is his master, remarking him for spoiling his sister too much. Yi Xian exclaimed at the sight of his master outside the ring. She explains that she is just an illusion, and only he can see her. Overpowered by his curiosity, Yi Xian reached out to touch his master, unintentionally provoking her anger. With an angry look, she warned him that repeating such an act would result in punishment during their next training session. Realizing his misstep, Yi Xian calmed his master, explaining his innocent curiosity. Seizing the moment, his master informed him that the seal on the second layer had been released and that he needs to find the Tao. Otherwise, no one can save him. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Yi Xian earnestly asked his master where he could find the Tao. She replied with a sweet smile, expressing her own desire to discover its location, revealing that this is why she needs his help. Upon their arrival in the city, the passenger handed Yi Xian a bag of coins containing 500 gold pieces. Excitedly, he invited his sister to join him for shopping. As they strolled amidst the stalls, his master commanded him to acquire the purple ring displayed at the stall on their left. Inquiring about its price, Yi Xian was happily informed by the seller that it is only 10 gold coins. Determined to make the purchase, he agreed without hesitation. However, after already making the deal, a girl interrupted them and demanded the seller to sell her the ring for 20 gold coins. Yi Ling couldn't help but question the girl's actions, provoking her irritation. But upon catching sight of Yi Ling, The girl's expression swiftly transformed into one of admiration. Intrigued, she inquired about Yiling's name, and Yiling agreed to introduce herself. Yixian, not one to mince words, called the girl a pervert, much to her displeasure. However, she swiftly recovered and gifted Lan a heavenly fire-warm jade, explaining that it could temporarily alleviate the cold within her body. Revealing her plan to take Yiling away after concluding her business, she offered the ring to Yixian for the sake of his sister. With the girl's departure, his master assured him that although the girl surpassed his current level, she harbored no ill intentions toward Yiling. Yiling beamed with delight as she proudly showed the warm jade to her brother, describing its comforting warmth. Yixian gently patted his sister, confirming that her condition was curable. Meanwhile, in a shadowy corner of the city, the girl from earlier engaged in a conversation with a masked woman who addressed her as Holiness. Astonished by the discovery of someone with a special constitution in a modest country like Jian, she revealed her intention to take Yiling away immediately if not for her pressing engagement, which is the Heavenly Sword Master's cave. The masked woman inquired about Yixian, prompting the Holiness to look down upon him for his shattered dantian and average physique. She ordered the masked woman, emphasizing that Yiling was the sole priority and that it doesn't matter if Yixian is dead or alive. Inside the ring, a tremendous slash of energy is seen leaving a slash on the floor as Yixian sat, exhausted yet triumphant. He informed his master that he had successfully executed the move known as a single blow will determine life or death. However, his master swiftly dismissed his claim, stating that he had barely scratched the surface. She emphasized that if he wished to master the way of the sword, he must delve deep into his own heart. She also reminded him that he had not yet reached the level of Imperial Qi, which explained the backlash he experienced. The move he had performed was merely a manifestation of sword skill, not the genuine article. Regardless, Yixian felt a sense of satisfaction in acquiring a new skill that could aid him in battle. The master enlightened him further, explaining that he was underestimating the power of the sword and that with time, he would even be able to fight in midair. She then presented Yixian with the ring, unsealing its hidden powers. The ring had the ability to draw upon the strength of thunder and lightning, but it could only be used 5 times. Yixian made a jest about using his master's ability so that they could earn a fortune, resulting in her promptly kicking him out of the ring. Outside the ring, Yixian complained to his master for taking his comments seriously. He glanced at the precious ring and decided to store it away, recognizing its value. As he sat on his bed, he was disturbed by a commotion outside. Hurriedly, he went to investigate, and discovered his sister being harassed by a disrespectful middle-aged man who seemed to have a death wish. Understanding the situation, Yixian swiftly kicked the man in the stomach. Enraged and threatened, the man demanded that Yixian kneel and apologize for daring to initiate a fight on the drunken immortal's cloud ship. Undeterred, Yixian responded by directing the tip of his sword toward the man's face, prompting the cowardly troublemaker to cower in fear and cry out for help. The guards of the ship promptly responded to the commotion, ordering Yixian and the troublemaker to cease their fighting within the drunken immortal's cloud ship. Yixian, taking note of their formidable cultivation levels, recognized the strength of the guards serving aboard the ship. Meanwhile, still sprawled on the floor, the troublemaker informs the guards that Yixian is trying to take his life. A voice from behind the guard retorted that he could explain his grievances to the denizens of hell, and ordered them to throw him off the ship. Helpless and terrified, the troublemaker could only plead for mercy. The woman who had given the order then turned her attention to Yixian, explaining that the rules of her cloud ship applied to everyone beneath the sky, even to sword cultivators. She inquired whether they were prepared to jump or if they required any assistance. Uncertain of their fate, Yixian tried to negotiate, suggesting that while a swordsman cultivator was subject to the rules, it might not be the case for a great swordsman. Unbeknownst to everyone else, his master quickly refuted his claim of being a great swordsman. Yixian complained, urging her not to blow their cover, as no one would give her the Dao if he is actually forced to jump. Unaware of their covert conversation, the woman expressed her curiosity, mentioning that there were only 100 great swordsmen in Jiang. She gave Yixian an inquisitive look, wondering why she was unfamiliar with his existence. In response, Yixian exhibited his glowing sword, asking her if what she is seeing is fake, explaining that he had been diligently training alongside his master. To further validate his skills, he suggested that the woman find someone to challenge him if she still harbored doubts. In a dismissive manner, she stated that it was unnecessary, instead ordering someone to assign Yi Xian a special room as he was a student of a hermit sword cultivator. Yi Xian found himself standing in a beautifully adorned room, secretly marveling at its luxuriousness. His sister, on the other hand, openly expressed her amazement at the quality of the accommodations. Attempting to conceal his own awe, Yi Xian playfully remarked that his sister had never seen such opulence before, promising that he would provide her with an even better house in the future. However, his attempt to hide his own fascination was in vain when his sister mentioned the softness of the bed, causing him to inadvertently reveal his own excitement. Just then, the woman from earlier called out Yi Xian's name and presented them with a spread of food, taking responsibility for the earlier misunderstanding. Surprised, she realized that Yi Xian was already seated at the table, assuring her that it was not a problem and inquiring about her name. With her gaze fixed upon him, she introduced herself as Han Shangming, the head of the drunken household, and in charge of the cloud ship they were on. Yi Xian expressed his astonishment that someone as young as Miss Han held such a high position within a prestigious association. Secretly harboring a motive for learning about Yi Xian's master, she also complimented him for being a great swordsman at such a young age. In response to her compliments, Yi Xian broke a sweat, realizing the impending inquiry about his master's identity. To divert the conversation, he suddenly called his sister to join them in the meal, indirectly signaling to Miss Han that she didn't need to pry further and could leave them in peace. Understanding his unspoken message, Miss Han reluctantly announced her departure, a hint of reluctance visible on her face. After reaching her room, Miss Han ponders about Yi Xian and remarks on his peculiar temperament, finding it difficult to unravel anything about him. Meanwhile, an old man warns her that Elder Gu will cause a commotion upon learning that she placed someone in a premium room. With a malicious smile, she responds that it's even better, revealing her plan to use Yi Xian to get rid of the elder. The old man observes her manipulative nature and predicts that she will struggle to find a genuine friendship. On the following day, outside the ship, Yiling excitedly calls out to her brother, marveling at the breathtaking view of the distant mountains. Yi Xian, being the protective older brother, advises her to be careful as she looks at the view. Among the other passengers is a chubby kid who suddenly insults her, mocking her as a country bumpkin and ridiculing her clothes. Unfazed, she explains that she will be content as long as her clothes are wearable, and she has her brother by her side. Every time he boasts about an item, Yiling replies that she has her brother. Growing tired of Yiling mentioning her brother, the chubby kid boasts that his father happens to be the city lord of Qianchen, trying to belittle Yi Xian's significance. In response, Yiling advises him with composure to keep a low profile, warning him that if he continues to act arrogantly, he will frequently find himself getting beaten up. Yi Xian, arriving at the two, asks his sister if the chubby kid is her new friend. Observing the close bond between Yi Xian and Yiling, the chubby kid's jealousy emerges, prompting him to approach his father and request a brother of his own. Inside Miss Han's room, an elder confronts her about the decision to give a premium room to an unnamed teenager. Miss Han responds in a leisurely manner, informing him that the teenager in question is actually a great swordsman. The elder scoffs at her statement, suggesting that she might as well claim that it was some famous figure like An Langshu or An Guisher. Undeterred, Miss Han questions the elder's motives, hinting that he is trying to demonstrate his loyalty to her brother. The elder defends himself, asserting that his actions are simply a result of fulfilling his responsibilities as an elder. He suggested that if Miss Han feels wronged by his words, she can take the matter up with their family. However, before leaving, the elder warns her that if she intends to use her power for personal gain, he will have to personally intervene and address the situation accordingly. After the elder left the room, the old man present advises her against setting herself on fire by manipulating the situation between Yi Xian and Elder Gu. She disregarded the advice as she believes that the risk will be worth it. Outside the ship, a guard callously throws the belongings of the siblings while Elder Gu confronts them. Elder Gu directs his attention to Yi Xian, questioning whether a premium room is suitable for a poor kid like him. Yiling steps in, informing Elder Gu that it was Miss Han who granted them the room. Elder Gu, seemingly unimpressed, probes further, asking if they paid for it or even have a valid ship ticket. Meanwhile, the The chubby kid from earlier observes the unfolding scene and points out to his father that the siblings are being bullied. The father advises him to observe the situation for the time being. Sensing the tension, Yi Xian picks up their belongings and addresses Elder Gu with a touch of sarcasm, stating that drunken immoral has truly opened his eyes and that the premium room no longer holds any importance to him. Elder Gu, fueled by his motive, accuses the siblings of being thieves who intentionally entered the premium room without proper tickets. Fueled by a surge of protectiveness for his sister, Yi Xian suddenly manifested a vision of a gigantic sword, towering over the entire ship. His master, realizing that he has finally grasped the heart of the sword, is taken aback by the manifestation. In a swift motion, Yi Xian kicks the guard who was threatening his sister. The onlookers are captivated by the intense fight unfolding before them. Meanwhile, the father seizes the opportunity to educate his son, explaining that what they just witnessed was sword purity. Perplexed, the son inquires about its meaning. The father can only facepalm himself, as he scolds his son for neglecting his studies. He goes on to explain that a swordsman can only become a true master of the way of the sword after understanding the heart of the sword. He further emphasizes that there is only one sword master in the entire Jiang country, and that Yi Xian will probably be the second one in the future. Yi Xian threatened the elder that he will kill them all if they touch his sister. Responding to Yi Xian, Elder Gu prepares for an attack as he shouts at Yi Xian for breaking the rules. The father realizes that the elder is already in the sky realm and that Yi Xian will not be able to defeat him. A guard suddenly opens Xiang Ming's door as he urgently reports that Yi Xian has understood the heart of the sword and that Elder Gu is about to be killed. Surprised by the news, Xiang Ming accidentally dropped her tea as she realizes Yi Xian's actual strength and value. The old man nervously urged the young lady to stop Elder Gu as it would be a dumb decision to offend a future master of Sword Dao. In contrast, Xiang Ming confidently smiles as she announces her time to step in. Returning to the battle, Yi Xian faces Elder Gu, who is now in a sprawled position. As Yi Xian was preparing his final move, the elder threatened him that given his position as an elder of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion, the association will not let him go if Yi Xian kills him. Unfazed, Yi Xian coldly replies that it is not the elder's business if the pavilion will spare him or not, since the elder will not be able to see the sun tomorrow. As the mastermind confidently arrived at the scene, with an air of unwavering arrogance, she began to assume a commanding pose as she implores Yi Xian to spare the elder, thinking that she will gain a powerful ally after pretending to help him. However, her fantasy was brutally shattered when Yi Xian grabbed her neck, lifted her off the ground, and coldly revealed his awareness of her involvement in the unfolding events. Yi Xian tightly clutches the neck of the scheming Xiang Ming as he coldly exposes his knowledge of her devious plot. Seeing the situation, the guards anxiously ordered Yi Xian to let go of their lady. The elder laughs at Xiang Ming, mocking her as he adds fuel to the fire by revealing her plan of using Yi Xian to kill him, thereby endangering his sister. As she gasps for air, Xiang Ming desperately denies the accusations, pleading with Yi Xian not to believe the elder's words. Consumed by rage, Yi Xian directs his sword toward the chattering elder, unleashing an overwhelmingly large slash of energy that obliterates his physical form. The crowd watches in awe and astonishment. This display of strength made the father realize that Yi Xian is actually a great swordsman. With a powerful throw, Yi Xian hurls Xiang Ming, causing her body to slam forcefully into the ship's pole. Despite her offenses, Yi Xian decides to spare her life, issuing a stern warning for her to disappear from his sight forever. Suddenly, a commanding voice reverberates through the air, remarking Yi Xian as arrogant. The perplexed crowd scans their surroundings, attempting to locate the source of the voice. Hovering high above them is a white crane with a figure above it. The guy insincerely praises the country for being rich in talent. He inquisitively interrogates Yi Xian about the identity of his backer for daring to kill a member of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. Yi Xian responds with a hint of sarcasm and arrogance, questioning whether his own life would be spared if his backer possessed sufficient strength. The man, thoroughly amused by Yi Xian's retort, scoffs and remarks that he was just considering if he should also eradicate the forces supporting Yi Xian. City Lord Lu, the chubby kid's father from earlier, steps forward and requests the man's favor, urging him to spare Yi Xian. The man acknowledges Lord Lu but refuses his request, advising him to stay out of the matter as it pertains to the affairs of the Drunken Immortal. Lord Lu's expression turns threatening as he criticizes the man, the master of the ninth floor, for bullying the two youngsters. Before Lord Lu can finish his sentence, the ninth floor owner swiftly positions himself behind the city lord and asserts that this is a private matter, stating that he will not give anyone face. Yi Xian respectfully bows to Lord Lu, expressing gratitude for his intervention. He adds that there is no point in trying to reason with them since the drunken immortal seeks to bully others. In response to Yi Xian's comment, the ninth floor owner reacts and lectures Yi Xian, emphasizing that strength prevails in this world. He boldly declares himself to be the one who bullies on behalf of the drunken immortal, and Yi Xian should therefore endure it. Pointing his fan at Yi Xian, the ninth floor owner confidently asserts that Yi Xian has no influential supporter backing him. In a selfless act, Yi Ling, being a loyal sister, offers herself to be sacrificed in place of her brother. Supported by the old man, Xiangming attempts to plead with her superior, but she is swiftly silenced and commanded to apologize to his master upon reaching the capital. The ninth floor owner orders his subordinates to hang the siblings' bodies in front of the cloud ship, intending to make a public display of their fate. With arrogance, he reaffirms his position as the bully of the drunken immortal pavilion, challenging anyone who dislikes their actions to come and fight. Agreeing to his audacious declaration, the master revealed herself before the ship while instructing Yi Xian to observe closely as she will teach him the true meaning of bullying others. Yi Xian carefully observes his master's actions, his curiosity piqued by her newfound ability to move outside. With a commanding gesture, she invokes her sword intent, extending her hand into the air. In response, a colossal vortex of turbulent water materializes behind her, swiftly condensing into the form of a sword. The chubby kid directs his father's attention to the dried-out river below, drawing their astonishment. Taken aback by the spectacle, the father peers downward, astonished to realize that even the renowned sword master of the Jiang country is incapable of such a feat. Witnessing this extraordinary display, beads of sweat form on the ninth floor master's face as he cautiously addresses Yi Xian's master. With a cold gaze, she focuses her attention on the once arrogant ninth floor owner. Swinging her sword with precision, she unleashes a powerful beam of energy directly at him. Despite his attempt to defend himself with a strong defensive technique, he proves unable to withstand the attack, leaving him in a pitiful and defeated state. After dealing with the antagonist, the master reveals to Yi Xian that the technique she employed was none other than, a single sword will determine the life and death. She inquires if he comprehends the essence of the technique. Trying to provoke another demonstration, Yi Xian pretends that the movements were too fast for him to fully comprehend. However, his master quickly sees through his act and calls him out on it. Turning her attention to the ninth floor owner who is feigning incapacitation, the master orders him to get up. The man tries to speak nonsense, but the master swiftly silences him with a warning. She demands that he summon his most formidable backer so she can demonstrate what it truly means to bully others. Moments later, the crowd notices the arrival of an individual who arrogantly introduces himself as the eighth floor owner. He questions the group for daring to mess with him, but before he can even land on the ship, the master swiftly dispatches him, showcasing his pitiful state to the ninth floor owner who calls him a dumbass. Suddenly, a swirling vortex of flaming wind materializes next to the ninth floor owner, revealing an elder who respectfully introduces himself as the third floor owner. The elder pleads with the master to remain calm and not create further difficulties for them. However, the master reveals the ninth floor owner's previous plan to hang the siblings' bodies in front of the ship. Upon learning the truth, the elder sarcastically praises the ninth floor owner for a job well done. He respectfully apologizes to Yi Xian and proposes on making amends. Yi Xian sighs and suggests to the elder that he should seek his master's opinion instead. In response, the elder swiftly commands his subordinates to hang the ninth floor owner's body in front of the ship as a way to offer apologies to the immortal swordsman and the siblings. The ninth floor owner can only plead for mercy upon hearing the order. As the guards lead away the ninth floor owner, the elder addresses the master, seeking confirmation of her satisfaction. In response, she dissipates her sword, transforming it back into its original form. Observing this phenomenon, the elder is struck with disbelief, realizing that even the immortal swordsman he is familiar with lacks such a capability. Curiosity surges within him as he contemplates the master's identity. Just before she leaves, the master directs her words to the members of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion, echoing the ninth-floor owner's challenge. She declares her strength and invites anyone who disagrees with her actions to confront her in battle. Turning his attention to Xiangming, the third-floor owner shows mercy for the sake of her grandfather. He commands her to go to the capital to reflect on her deeds and forbids her from interfering in the affairs of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion henceforth. The old man acknowledges their luck for being spared by Yi Xian, but Xiangming expresses regret over missing the opportunity to befriend him. As a gesture of reconciliation, the third-floor owner presents Yi Xian with a VIP card for the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. Yi Xian expresses gratitude to the elder, assuring him that the matter has been resolved. Within the ring, the master inquires if Yi Xian feels relieved. Yi Xian joyfully laughs, expressing his immense relief as he embraces his master's shoulder. Curiously, he asks her how she was able to emerge from the ring. Reacting to Yi Xian's gesture, the master firmly disengages from his embrace, maintaining a serious demeanor. She emphasizes the importance of his training, reminding him that he must develop the resolve and strength befitting a sword master in order to protect his sister. Furthermore, she reveals that the second seal will unlock in 4 months' time in exchange for her exiting the ring. With a serious tone, she warns Yi Xian of the dire consequences that await him if he fails to find a means to seal it. After a few moments, the announcer finally informs the passengers that they have arrived at the imperial capital, advising them to remain seated until the ship has landed. As the passengers leave the station, a voice from behind calls out to Yi Xian, addressing him as a big brother. Yi Xian turns around and sees that it is the chubby kid who had been impressed by his strength, and now considers him as an elder brother. Yiling, not one to let this opportunity slip by, playfully asks the chubby kid how he would address her if he called her brother as big brother. The chubby kid, a bit perplexed, hesitantly addresses her as little sister. Flattered by his response, Yiling crosses her arms and raises her head in approval, expressing her satisfaction with his answer. Lord Lu joins the conversation, and Yi Xian respectfully greets him, expressing gratitude once again for his earlier assistance. The city lord, however, dismisses Yi Xian's gratitude, stating that his help was negligible. Considering that the siblings are newcomers to the capital, the city lord extends an invitation for them to stay at his house. Yi Xian declines the offer, mentioning their intention to go to Kangmu Academy. Lord Lu informs him that it would be pointless to visit the academy at such a late hour, and insists on hosting them at his residence. Inside Lord Lu's household, everyone gathers around the table as they are served. Lord Lu proposes a toast to Yi Xian, but his son interjects, urging his father not to delay his training in becoming a sword cultivator. Annoyed, Lord Lu scolds his son for underestimating the challenges of becoming a swordsman. Yi Xian watches the exchange with amusement, and agrees to train the chubby kid, on the condition that he loses weight. The chubby kid is taken aback by the seemingly impossible condition, and everyone at the table shares a laugh at his reaction before continuing with their meal. While enjoying their meal, one of Lord Lu's subordinates interrupts to inform him about the first prince hosting a banquet and extending an invitation to him. Lord Lu, in turn, invites Yi Xian and his sister to accompany him. Perplexed, Yi Xian questions whether they can truly attend the prince's banquet. Lord Lu assures him that every year, Kangmu Academy holds an examination, attracting talented individuals and troublemakers alike to the capital. The purpose of the banquet is to entertain all those who have gathered. Lord Lu assures Yi Xian that he will not have any problem getting into the academy and encourages him to seize this opportunity to network and establish connections, emphasizing their importance in the capital. Realizing the potential benefits, Yi Xian concludes that Lord Lu is right. He acknowledges that the banquet will gather numerous talented individuals and hopes that among them, someone may possess knowledge or resources to help cure his sister's condition. Yi Xian extends his heartfelt thanks to Lord Lu for the favor, and Lord Lu modestly dismisses the significance of his contribution. Noticing her own fatigue, Yiling chooses not to join them. Yi Xian suggests that she takes the opportunity to rest until his return. As they arrive at the banquet, a charming lady notices them and warmly welcomes Lord Lu, informing him about the activities organized by the prince for the newcomers. She kindly asks if he would be interested in observing these activities. Lord Lu declines the offer with a suspicious cough and instead orders the lady to guide them to the prince. Intrigued, Yi Xian inquires about the nature of the activities. In response, Lord Lu awkwardly feigns ignorance while wearing a nervous expression. Upon their arrival at the gathering, the lady leads Lord Lu into the room where the first prince awaits. Lord Lu informs Yi Xian that he will need to leave him momentarily to meet with the prince. Observing the luxurious carpet beneath their feet, the chubby kid remarks that it is made from the hide of a red tiger, which costs at least 1,000,000 gold coins. This realization dawns on him, highlighting the wealth of the drunken immortal pavilion surpassing that of his own family. One of the guests warmly greets Yi Xian and expresses curiosity about his background. Yi Xian responds, stating that he is a humble loose cultivator from the city of Qing. At first, Yi Xian is glad to find that the people in the capital are friendly. However, upon learning his background, the guest's attitude abruptly changes, leaving him behind in his greeting position while referring to him as a stray of the party. Meanwhile, the guest swiftly shifts their attention to another attendee, someone with a more esteemed background. Engaging with him eagerly, the guest treats him with enthusiasm and respect. The chubby kid observes this interaction with irritation, commenting on the guest's tendency to look down on others. In a fit of anger, the chubby kid approaches Yi Xian, offering to handle the guest on his behalf. Yi Xian, however, advises him to let it go, explaining that it's unnecessary to get worked up over such behavior as it is common among certain individuals. Aligned with Yi Xian's sentiments, the first prince extends his praise, acknowledging Yi Xian's achievement in gaining the recognition of the city lord. As the crowd gathers and the prince's presence becomes known, whispers and comments ripple through the onlookers. One individual expresses his enviousness of Yi Xian's fortune for receiving praise from the prince. Another voice joins in, expressing a more dismissive tone, emphasizing that empty praise alone is insufficient if he fails to prove himself beyond that. Lord Lu introduces the prince as Jiang Nianxing, and in response, Yi Xian introduces himself. Observing the interaction, the prince privately criticizes Lord Lu, considering him foolish for asking him to recommend someone like Yi Xian. However, upon further contemplation, he realizes that Lord Lu is a cunning individual and that things can't be as simple as they seem. Speculating that Yi Xian is merely a pawn in Lord Lu's plan, he concludes that Lord Lu wants him to appear courteous in front of everyone to attract potential talents. The prince exchanges a meaningful glance with Lord Lu, silently acknowledging his understanding of the underlying strategy. Inwardly puzzled, Lord Lu wonders why the prince is looking at him. The announcer's voice resonates through the hall, declaring the arrival of Mu Suiqing. Upon hearing this, the prince quickly informs Lord Lu about pressing matters that require his immediate attention, signaling his need to depart. Concerned that the prince might overlook Yi Xian, Lord Lu attempts to stop him. However, misinterpreting Lord Lu's intentions regarding Yi Xian, the prince insists on leaving. Intrigued by the unfolding situation, Yi Xian turns to Lord Lu and inquires about the identity of Mu Suiqing, noticing the prince's urgency to meet her. Lord Lu, with a hint of intrigue in his voice, reveals that Suiqing is no ordinary girl. She is renowned as the #1 beauty in the capital. This revelation piques Yi Xian's curiosity, prompting him to question whether Suiqing surpasses the beauty of Anlan Shu. Lord Lu spits out his drink in surprise upon hearing Yi Xian's question. After composing himself, Lord Lu explains that Anlan Shu's fame stems from her formidable strength that has garnered respect from people across 100 countries. Her reputation is not solely based on her looks. Mu Suiqing, on the other hand, is backed by the influential Mu family, becoming a coveted figure for those with ambitions for the throne. Thus, the prince, along with others, seeks to marry Mu Suiqing as a strategic move to gain support and strengthen their pursuit of the crown. Upon learning about the prince's intentions, Yi Xian's perception of him diminishes. Lord Lu, hearing Yi Xian's remark, reflects inwardly, regretting his decision to withhold Yi Xian's true background from the prince. He had been concerned about potentially upsetting Yi Xian by revealing too much about him. As a result, he realizes that the prince doesn't hold any regard for Yi Xian whatsoever. A carriage arrives in front of the building where the banquet is being held. Emerging from the carriage is an incredibly beautiful woman who captivates everyone with her presence. As the prince chuckles, assuming her arrival is intended for him, he remarks that news of her visit would surely make others envious. However, Miss Mu quickly dispels his illusion by stating that she is here for her friend. Xiang Ming extends her hand, laughing at Suiqing's response to the prince and cautioning her that such a response might make the prince dislike Xiang Ming instead. Sui Qing responds by questioning if the prince would dare to do so. As the two engage in conversation, seemingly oblivious to the presence of the prince, one of his subordinates reprimands Sui Qing for her apparent disregard for the eldest prince, insinuating that she fails to grasp the repercussions of her actions. However, the prince himself interrupts, his mind filled with delusions of conquering Sui Qing in more ways than one, causing him to drool in anticipation. Upon entering their room, Xiangming playfully teased her friend, suggesting that the prince had instantly fallen for Sui Qing. In response, Sui Qing questioned the prince's worthiness of her affection. Shifting the topic, Sui Qing's gaze landed on Yi Xian, noticing Xiangming's lingering glances towards him since they entered the room. Sui Qing playfully turned the tables and asked if Xiangming had developed a secret crush on Yi Xian. Caught off guard, Xiangming hastily denied it. Noticing Xiangming's reaction, Sui Qing took the opportunity to enlighten her friend about the nature of men. She stated that men were merely servants to be utilized for personal gain. Furthermore, Sui Qing suggested that Yi Xian's presence at the event might be driven by his ambition to climb the ranks and earn favor from the prince. Xiangming reluctantly agrees with Sui Qing's assessment but adds that Yi Xian is not a man to be provoked. Intrigued by her words, Sui Qing pulls her friend towards the gathering, determined to show her the true colors of men. She confidently states that no man can resist her charm. However, Xiangming cautions her about Yi Xian and advises her to at least be polite if she insists on approaching him. As they reach Yi Xian, he reluctantly introduces himself as a loose cultivator. His cold gaze falls upon Xiangming as he contemplates whether the drunken immortal intends to seek revenge. Sui Qing confronted Yi Xian, questioning how a loose cultivator like him was able to enter the banquet. In response, Yi Xian questioned her identity, demanding to know why she was concerned about his methods of entry. Reacting to this, Sui Qing maintained her formal demeanor and formally inquired about Yi Xian's identity. However, Yi Xian appeared disinterested, not even bothering to look at her while she is speaking to him. Lord Lu noticed this and nervously informed Yi Xian that she was the Sui Qing they had discussed earlier. Witnessing this interaction, Sui Qing couldn't help but assume that Yi Xian was putting on a show of importance. She pondered the idea that regardless of how affection is expressed, the essence of love remains the same. Sui Qing put on a facade of sweetness in front of the onlookers, aiming to make it difficult for Yi Xian to reject her. With what seemed like a genuine intention to befriend him, she extended an invitation for him to visit her place. Deep inside, she harbored the confident belief that her invitation would be impossible for any man to refuse. However, Yi Xian politely declined, citing the presence of his friends as a reason why he couldn't leave at that moment. He assured Sui Qing that there would be a future opportunity to meet. Yet, in his inner thoughts, Yi Xian concluded that it would be better to avoid crossing paths with this woman. The onlookers gasped in disbelief as Yi Xian unexpectedly declined the invitation of the renowned beauty of the capital. Sensing the tension rising, Xiangming urgently advised her friend to step back and cautioned against pressuring Yi Xian any further. However, much like how Xiangming had disregarded the old man's warning about not making an enemy out of Yi Xian, Sui Qing chose to ignore her friend's advice. She started shedding tears, portraying herself as a victim and questioning Yi Xian whether she was unworthy of being his friend, attempting to manipulate the situation to her advantage. Deceived by her act, the crowd grew angry at Yi Xian for making their beloved Sui Qing cry, accusing him of arrogance. In the midst of it all, Sui Qing secretly found amusement in this situation, relishing the public pressure surrounding Yi Xian. However, to her surprise and dismay, Yi Xian firmly told her to go back, leaving her with a mix of anger, surprise, and defeat written across her face. From behind the crowd, a big guy spoke up, questioning Yi Xian's audacity to speak to Miss Mu in such a manner. The person standing before him recognized the guy as Kang Qi, a new student from the Kangmu Academy. In response, the chubby kid stepped forward, demanding to know Kang Qi's identity for disrespecting his older brother. Unfazed by the confrontation, Kang Qi swiftly leaped forward, demonstrating his imposing size as he landed before the kid. With an intimidating demeanor, he extended his massive hands, threatening to break every bone in the kid's body. Trembling in fear, the chubby kid looked up at the towering figure before him. Sensing the imminent danger, Lord Lu called out to his son, ready to intervene. Just as the tension reached its peak, Yi Xian swiftly took action, delivering a powerful punch to Kang Chi's face, rendering him unconscious on the floor. After incapacitating his opponent, Yi Xian redirected his attention to Sui Qing and expressed his preference for forming friendships based on genuine character rather than resorting to manipulative tactics. Standing beside her, Xiang Ning clarified that Kang Chi had no association with them whatsoever. Sui Qing observed her friend's actions, pondering whether Xiang Ming truly had romantic feelings for Yi Xian. At that moment, the prince arrived, curious about the commotion, remarking that the gathering resembled a bustling vegetable market. As the crowd respectfully greeted the prince, Lord Lu, among the onlookers, saw this as a potential opportunity for the prince to recognize Yi Xian's abilities and possibly recruit him. Meanwhile, Sui Qing confronted the prince, questioning his remarks and implying that he had referred to her as a vegetable seller's wife. Concerned by her reaction, the prince quickly apologized and tried to calm her down. He clarified that it was a misunderstanding and asked her to explain the cause of her distress. In her effort to sway the prince's opinion against Yi Xian, Sui Qing expressed her disappointment, highlighting the harm done to Kang Chi and the feeling of being disregarded by Yi Xian. She emphasized that her sole intention had been to befriend him. The crowd, in agreement with Sui Qing's sentiments, voiced their opinions disapproving of Yi Xian. Meanwhile, the prince's expression displayed surprise upon hearing Yi Xian's ability to defeat Kang Chi. The sight of his swollen face lying unconscious on the ground confirmed the severity of the altercation. The prince, observing his condition, expressed concern and instructed his subordinates to take him for medical treatment. The subordinates acknowledged the order and replied affirmatively to carry out the task. Confronting Yi Xian, the prince inquired about his name in an interrogative tone. His subordinate promptly informed him that the individual in question was Yi Xian from their earlier encounter. Wearing an expression that seemingly conveyed his disdain for Yi Xian, the prince asserted that he had already grasped the situation. He expressed his understanding that Yi Xian had insulted Miss Mu and caused harm to Kang Chi, and sternly demanded an apology from him. After demanding an apology from Yi Xian, the prince turned his attention towards Sui Qing, attempting to impress her by reassuring her that he would seek justice on her behalf. Lord Lu, observing the situation alongside Yi Xian, apologized for the unexpected turn of events. However, Yi Xian quickly dismissed Lord Lu's apology, stating that it had nothing to do with him. Lord Lu, recognizing the severity of the prince's actions, inwardly concluded that the prince had completely offended Yi Xian. With a mocking smile, Yi Xian commented on the prince's transparent attempt to enhance his image and recruit more talented individuals. In response, the prince, feeling called out, raised his fan and warned Yi Xian against speaking nonsense. Masking his intentions with a facade of goodwill, the prince offered Yi Xian a choice: either kneel down and apologize or face the consequence of being prohibited from leaving the drunken immortal pavilion. In his inner thoughts, the prince believes that sacrificing one of them to impress Miss Mu seemed like a worthwhile trade-off. Noticing the tension escalating, Lord Lu intervened and requested a favor from Miss Mu, suggesting that they let the matter go. Mu Suiqing, pretending to be interested in befriending Yi Xian, responded with a mocking smile and stated that Yi Xian had offended everyone, making it pointless to try to convince her otherwise. Lord Lu, at a loss for words, stood with a perplexed expression, uncertain of what his next course of action should be. Observing the scene, Yi Xian couldn't help but chuckle at the pretentiousness of the woman. Noticing his laughter, Sui Qing confronted him and demanded to know what he found so amusing. In response, Yi Xian replied that he found amusement in someone like her, who is so consumed by her own beauty and family background. Yi Xian proceeded to mock the crowd, referring to them as a bunch of fools who were making a spectacle of themselves by blindly following someone who only observed from the sidelines. He then directed his words to Sui Qing, informing her not to bother pretending to befriend him because he had no interest in her, even if she were to pose naked in front of him. Recognizing Sui Qing's inflated ego, the prince and the crowd stared at her with nervous anticipation, awaiting her reaction. Consumed by anger, Sui Qing charged a burst of energy in Yi Xian's direction. However, Yi Xian effortlessly neutralized her attack and pushed her back in the process. As she realized the true extent of Yi Xian's strength, Sui Qing composed herself and maintained a calm demeanor. Instead of backing down, she decided to compliment Yi Xian and issued a challenge, testing his limits to see just how much he could endure. However, before she could attack, Xiang Ning stepped in, taking responsibility for the situation despite clarifying that it wasn't her intention for things to escalate. Confused, Sui Qing questioned her friend, asking if she was taking Yi Xian's side. Begging Sui Qing not to cause any further trouble, Xiang Ming pleaded with her to let it go. However, Sui Qing retorted that she couldn't simply brush it off due to the severity of Yi Xian's words. The prince, in agreement with Sui Qing, assured her that nothing would happen to them and added that he would ensure Yi Xian faced the consequences for insulting Sui Qing. Just then, after declaring his dominant word, an assertive voice from a room silences the crowd as it sarcastically praises the prince for being powerful. After looking above, the prince sweats profusely as he realized the identity of the person who was addressing him. Everyone proceeded to greet the national warrior of their country, and she proceeded to descend as she remarks on the rarity of talent in the Jiang country, and that the prince had made a stupid move by provoking one of them. The prince replies with concern as he points out that Yi Xian is merely a loose cultivator who insulted Sui Qing and harmed Kang Qi. In response, Lang Shu questions him if he is implying that he is better at recognizing talents. The prince hastily denies it, not daring to offend her. After the prince confirmed his mistake, Lang Shu removed him from being the host to the new students and prohibited him from being a host for 5 years. Reacting to the severe punishment, the prince pushes his opinion that Yi Xian is just a loose cultivator. However, Lang Shu doubles the time of his punishment. The prince pleaded with her, invoking his father in an attempt to mitigate his punishment. In return, Lang Shu doubles the punishment once again, totaling it to 20 years. Hearing this, the prince raises his hands in resignation, finally accepting the punishment. After reprimanding the prince, Lang Shu requested Sui Qing to provide a concise explanation for her immature behavior, considering her role as a representative of the Mu family's younger generation. Xiang Ming quietly whispered to Sui Qing that she was being addressed by Armed Wisher. As Sui Qing remained silent, Lang Shu questioned whether she held a grudge or remained unconvinced. Growing impatient with her lack of response, Lang Shu directed a spell at her, causing her to grip her neck in pain. Witnessing her friend's suffering, Xiang Ming pleaded for Sui Qing to be spared, appealing to Lan Shu for the sake of the Mu family. Lang Shu agrees to this request. However, with a threatening gaze, she instructed them to inform the patriarch of the Mu family that Yi Xian was her friend. Furthermore, she warned that they should expect retaliation from her if any member of the Mu family dared to cause trouble again. As Xiang Ming anxiously worried about her friend, Lang Shu approached Yi Xian. He teasingly points out that she is always bossy and questioning if everything would be alright. Lang Shu reassured him, suggesting that he could simply pretend Sui Qing had attacked him and fainted. Before he could respond, Lang Shu firmly grabbed him by the collar and began pulling him away from the crowded place. The chubby kid, watching his big brother being dragged away by Lang Shu, bid farewell to him and made a request for Yi Xian to secure Lang Shu's autograph. The onlooking crowd observed their closeness with mixed emotions, some expressing envy, while others resigned themselves. Amidst the unfolding events, the prince, with teary eyes, desperately clutched Lord Lu's hand, pleading for his assistance. The prince expressed his fear that if he offended the national warrior, it would jeopardize his chance of ascending to the throne. Meanwhile, Lord Lu, feeling awkward and looking at the prince with a hint of exasperation, thought to himself that if the prince had missed such an opportunity, he deserved to lose the throne. Lord Lu believed that if the national warrior were to truly punish the prince, the consequences would have been far more severe than what he was currently facing. Lang Shu, illuminated by the moonlight, stood in front of the gazebo, her gaze fixed on Yi Xian as he wiped his sweat while complaining about how she had nearly strangled him earlier. Lang Shu, curious by his distant words, questions what name he used to refer to her. Yi Xian, repeating himself, calls her Miss An. In response, Lang Shu handed him a handkerchief to wipe his sweat and tells him to address her as An since all of her friends do. Yi Xian took the handkerchief but hesitated in addressing her as An, considering it too familiar. Lang Shu assured him that she wasn't as unfriendly as Mu Sui Qing. Yi Xian then requested that she not address him by his family name. In response, Lang Shu agreed and decided to call him Little Xuanzi instead. Yi Xian found it amusing and chuckled to himself. Changing the topic, Lang Shu expressed her surprise at Yi Xian's quick understanding of the heart of the sword in just a few days. Yi Xian questioned how she knew about his comprehension, and Lang Shu explained that she possessed special eyes, allowing her to see the essence of others. Sensing his thoughts wandering into inappropriate territory, Lang Shu quickly clarified that it wasn't what he thought and warned him not to mess with her any further. Yi Xian chuckled in response to Lang Shu's words, assuring her that he didn't think anything of it. Going back to the topic, he admitted that he hadn't even reached the Imperial Qi realm, emphasizing how far he was from it. Lang Shu patted him on the shoulder, wearing a smile, and explained that it wasn't solely about his realm but rather his competence. She expressed confidence that an ordinary Sky Realm practitioner wouldn't be a match for him. Concluding their discussion, Lang Shu reminded Yi Xian about the upcoming enrollment day at Kangmu Academy, addressing him as Little Xuanzi. Yi Xian reassured her, stating that he wouldn't forget and expressing his determination to enter Kangmu Academy so they could have another opportunity to compete.